Frankfurt, Germany, a city at the heart of Europe and a global hub for commerce, education and technology. And now it's bringing together clinicians, scientists, nurses and many more to share their expertise in bone marrow transplantation and cell therapy, all to help save the lives of patients with blood cancers and other life-threatening diseases. It's the 45th annual meeting of the European Society for Blood and Marrow Transplantation, and we're EBMT TV. Welcome to the 45th annual meeting of the EBMT. Well, everything is getting underway here at the Frankfurt Messe as the EBMT's diverse community comes together from around the world to discuss the latest scientific breakthroughs, trial results and clinical guidelines. Well, as you can see, I'm joined by one of the meeting's co-presidents from this year. Peter, thanks for joining us. Are you excited?
Oh yes, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Everything is ready and we look forward for the meeting.
We've got loads of great stuff coming up, yeah, and we will be taking a look at what to expect at EBMT 2019 shortly. But first, let's find out what's coming up on EBMT TV today.
There's a lot of opportunities which should make this meeting unforgettable, I hope, and very enjoyable for the participants. In our center we are treating babies, toddlers, school children up to young adults. Excellent patient care for pediatric patients could only be guaranteed in dedicated and specialized pediatric centers.
It's growing, it's changing. Each year is different than the other. Brings a bunch of new challenges. It's ever changing, you never get bored.
Me and my wife had a baby 4 days after my first transplant. It was important for me to show her the difference that she'd made.
EBMT has developed for the next 2 years a specific educational strategy. So developed a curriculum for physicians, and the textbook is actually the first part. The next step will be e-learning platform on EBMT exam.
I think we are living a very exciting period. If I could use let's say, James Bond sentence, I would say the world will never be the same. That will change the way we practice medicine in hematology and oncology.
What makes the treatment unique in our department is the combination of high-tech medicine, but not forgetting about the supportive care of the whole family.
I'm a nurse, so I want to know about the nursing management for other complications such as VOD, which is today.
We did a collaborative phase 3 study together, aiming at comparison of azacitidine-based therapy versus stem cell transplantation in higher risk MDS patients.
Well, my abstract focused on the role of the intestinal microbiota, which is the bacteria within our intestines, and their potential impact to serve as biomarkers for response to chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy.
Well, a lot to look forward to there, and we cannot wait to hear from this year's worthy award winners. But first, let's talk to one of the co-presidents about the meeting. Peter, thanks again for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
It's such an exciting time here, and of course there have been loads of new scientific developments. What do you think will be some of the real scientific highlights this year?
This year, I think, as the last few years already developed, CAR T-cell therapy, I think, might be a very important topic, gene therapy, and also novel developments in the field of haploidentical transplantations, but there are also other cell therapy elements which will be discussed, whether they are antigen-specific anti-leukemia cells, mesenchymal stromal cells will play an important role, new drugs for the treatment of viral diseases. So many topics, really exciting times we are facing.
Other than the scientific side of things, what other things can delegates look forward to?
So we are really very happy that tonight we have a special lecture in the opening ceremony, loss of biodiversity, a really important topic which affects all human beings on this planet. We will have an excellent and very interesting networking event where, however, I will not give any details about because it should be a surprise.
Don't give the game away.
No. And we ordered the sun, so we should have a very agreeable meeting besides the science.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you've organised the weather.
Yeah, we asked for it.
What do you think that Frankfurt brings to the meeting then?
So I think this venue is really in the heart of the center, so for all the delegates it's easy to reach, to come to the conference center. All hotels are within walking distance, so no long ways. Also the historical heart of the city is very close to our venue. So I think there's a lot of opportunities which should make this meeting unforgettable, I hope, and very enjoyable for the participants.
Fantastic, Peter. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great few days.
Wonderful.
Well, earlier we were lucky enough to visit both co-presidents at their home hospital. Let's take a look at that now and hear from them and their colleagues at the University Hospital Frankfurt.
We have started our intensified transplant program in 2004 when we have opened this first center. We are treating all type of diseases, ranging from leukemia to solid tumor to patients with immunodeficiency. Special interest lies in the improvement of allogeneic transplantation in patients with acute leukemia. We have developed several types of cellular therapies and have a large and active program. We have been awarded by the Research Council of the Federal Republic of Germany and the state of Hessen a grant of almost 20 million euros to build this new research building we are in now. In our center we are treating different patients in different age groups, ranging from babies, toddlers, school children up to young adults. So it is really important that dedicated pediatric nurses are treating these patients and caring for, because it's a totally different approach than treating adults. Excellent patient care for pediatric patients could only be guaranteed in dedicated and specialized pediatric centers.
We achieved a program that is one of the largest transplant program in Germany and even in Europe. Now we provide care for all children in the south of Hessen and in some collaborating hospitals, and we attract also patients from Germany and from all over Europe. We provide special programs as our haploidentical stem cell transplantation program. It is possible to use also parents and children as haploidentical donors. We changed the technique in order to be able to have a donor for each patient, and in our case it was most father or mother. We could demonstrate in analysis of the last 10 years that patients with ALL who were transplanted in first remission had indeed the same chances if they were transplanted by a haploidentical donor, a matched unrelated donor, or a sibling donor. What we want to do in the future is to extend this program and to add elements of cell therapy in order to avoid relapses.
Most frequent causes for transplantation in our center is acute leukemia, and the major cause for treatment failure after allogeneic transplantation is relapse. Over the past 2 decades we have investigated tremendous efforts in developing methods for the detection of impending relapse, and we could successfully implement these methods ranging from chimerism analysis to the regular assessment of minimal residual disease.
A protocol has been established to rapidly generate T cells with NK phenotype, turn cytokine-induced killer cells for the treatment of patients with refractory or relapsing diseases after allogeneic transplantation. So starting from peripheral blood mononuclear cells of the original stem cell donor, CIK cells can be generated by incubation with different cytokines. We performed a pilot study in which we treated 28 patients with refractory diseases after allogeneic transplantation. Patients showed good clinical results with an overall survival of 77% at a median follow-up of more than 2 years, while no or only limited graft versus host disease was seen in these patients.
Based on the results of clinical trials, we have further established different cellular therapy approaches to prevent frank relapse by early intervention based on the findings of MRD in cameras. For the most frequent disease, for example, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the morbidity and mortality at the early years when we've started our program has been approximately 20%, and we put this down in most recent years to only 4%. One major complication after allogeneic transplantation in children and adults is the development of acute graft-versus-host disease. This is a devastating complication and can even lead to death of the patients. We developed a new method to generate mesenchymal stromal cells. They are extremely effective in the treatment of patients with GVHD who did not respond on the first-line treatment steroids. We are very happy that we now found an investor who is willing to lead a clinical trial to obtain a European license of these cells for the treatment of patients with steroid-refractory acute GVHD.
Our research teams are continuously working on innovative cell-based therapeutic strategies. Examples for successful cellular therapeutics are NK cell, CIK, T cell or MSC-based protocols. These immune cells are either cytokine activated or gene modified, and once a cellular product has proven its high efficiency in vitro, we will further test it in different mouse models in vivo. We have established models for bone marrow transplantation, graft versus leukemia, graft versus host effects, and also xenograft models for different tumor entities. To ensure efficient translation from bench to bedside, GMP-compliant products are developed based on our preclinical in vitro and in vivo data. Additionally, clinical application and immune monitoring data will give rise to new scientific questions back to the bench.
We are currently working at the implementation of different cellular therapy approaches like CAR T cells or CAR 6 cells for the treatment of patients with acute leukemia, but also for the treatment of patients with solid tumors. In the non-malignant group patients, so based on the tremendous progress we have made in reducing complications after allogeneic transplantation, we are now able to extend the indications also towards patients with disturbances of their immune system. This is also a further field in which we want to extend our activities. In our center we are treating babies, toddlers, school children up to young adults. Excellent patient care for pediatric patients could only be guaranteed in dedicated and specialized pediatric centers.
We'd like to provide the best overall care for patients from the moment they get here to 10 years or 20 years after they're transplanted.
We'll be one of the first institutions on Long Island to actually provide CAR T-cell therapy for patients with refractory leukemia and lymphoma.
Physicians in the area around get noticed of us, and they are presenting their patients to us because they believe in us to do our good job. That is what makes us proud.
What makes the treatment unique in our department is the combination of high-tech medicine, but not forgetting about the supportive care of the whole family.
Theracos ECP immunomodulation employs the patient's own immune cells to modulate dysregulated immune function. For more than 30 years, Theracos has been pioneering the science of immunomodulation through ECP and its therapeutic applications.
Exciting work there at University Hospital Frankfurt, leading the way in finding new options for patients. Now, yesterday was setup day and we got the chance to go behind the scenes and find out just what it takes to get EBMT up and running.
What's happening today is basically the setup day, the last of the setup day. We've been here since Wednesday. Today is finally we are organizing every single room, every single session hall, all the final arrangements are being done, the exhibition is now finalizing, the cleaning and the carpeting is going to start. We have actually now grew in terms of the exhibition space. We have a bigger exhibition space than last year's. EBMT is a hub. Now it's become a huge area where people can network, get together. There's a special area for this. We have an industry theater incorporated within the EBMT hub. We have our own TV studio now, so it is altogether a big, huge area where people can get together basically. It's growing, it's changing. Each year is different than the other. Brings a bunch of new challenges, bunch of new things to deal with. So it's ever changing, you never get bored.
Transplantation can be a challenging experience for patients, and managing the patient's journey is a central part of the BMT team's role. Recognising that, today's EBMT Patient Family Donor Day is a central part to the EBMT meeting. Let's head over there now and hear some of their stories.
We have here the Patient Family Donor Day, which is for patients, their carers, family, and of course for donors. Since we were established last year in Lisbon 2018, we organized it for the first time, set the key topics we felt were important. It informs patients so they know what's going on with them. They know they can get help for them. It's not unique, it's something we share. They meet patient organization where they can go to, and actually that's supported by research that the more informed the patient is, the higher the chance of survival. We have for the first time a patient advocacy track which runs parallel to these sessions for patients, families and donors. And by hearing this voice and listening to the voice of patients and patient advocates, I'm sure that you can raise the awareness of the unmet needs of patients.
The patient advocacy track is actually a track to inform the participants about topics that are really of interest for the patient community. And we've been doing this as patient advocates for quite some years because we feel there needs to be a connect between the physicians, the clinicians, the people that are doing the medicine, let's say on the ground, and what patients are really interested in. Because bone marrow transplant is something between, let's say, different diseases. And so it's very difficult to do advocacy in that space. And I think at the EBMT Congress with the advocacy track, we're trying to connect that. So to get patient advocates from different disease areas to speak about what matters to them. In the future, we'll probably discuss about all the different topics that are coming up, like cell therapy, CAR-T, and whatever. There are new challenges coming up to this community, and the patient community is ready to work with the clinicians on that.
There's not enough attention for donors, and we couldn't survive without donors. So in some countries it's possible to meet your receiver or meet a donor because it's such an essential part of your survival that the donor is there. Of course you have a connection.
I was first diagnosed with a condition called aplastic anemia, severe aplastic anemia, in 2008. And there was a worldwide search after the UK had no matches. Unfortunately, someone had just gone on the register weeks earlier in Germany.
I wanted to register as a donor because I think it's a great opportunity to help in case my genetic twin needs help, and I registered on a blood donation day. I was blood donating and I just gave a bit more blood, and that's the way I registered. It was only weeks later. I received a letter. I did not expect it at all. I was in the hospital for 3 days. It was fine, it was all right. I was allowed to go home direct on the next day.
Because I was becoming very ill at this stage, and we needed to do something quickly. So I was fortunate. I was very fortunate. So I was relieved was the overriding feeling.
We wrote each other a few letters, and then we both decided that we want to meet each other. And then he invited me to Sheffield to meet his family.
It was exactly 3 years ago that Jacqueline came. Me and my wife had a baby 4 days after my first transplant. It was important for me to show her the difference that she'd made.
I want to show other people that it's so easy to help, so easy to make a difference.
Well, it's what we've all been waiting for, the new EBMT handbook. And if you haven't already got your copy, make sure you pick up a copy here at the EBMT hub. But what's new this year? Well, let's find out.
I think it's good to have something that I can look at a quick guide, like to look at like what disease and what conditioning that we can use.
It's very important for me, a very good reference for the transplantation. I think it can provide important information for me to work during my routine transplantation.
Today to have a general view to see how the challenges and all the successes, studies, trials and everything is very nice.
In the last years, there have been a lot of new advances in the field of stem cell transplantation. Then it was necessary to update periodically this handbook because it's used by many of our affiliates. And then it was necessary this update, and the book has increased a lot.
And it's also part of our educational strategy. So EBMT has developed for the next 2 years a specific educational strategy. So developed a curriculum for physicians, and the textbook is actually the first part. The next step will be e-learning platform on EBMT exam.
We ensured that the handbook was very well updated because we have changed the strategy. In previous editions, it was an editorial committee that decided the authors invited to participate. But this time, the EBMT has the good strategy of take every working party and decide inside the working party which people is the best to write each one of the chapters in base of his experience.
We had to organize first all of the authors, you know. This is 170, so we have a lot of telephone conference. We have to distribute the task, and then we have to see whether we structured the chapters. There should be a homogeneous line, and then we have to edit it at the end, and then so it took, actually we planned 2 years, but we succeed in 1 year.
I recommend the people to download the book, because if they download the book, it's automatically updated. You can have in your phone, you take the phone and you have the handbook here. And then it's an excellent solution to consultate rapidly any doubt existing in this field.
Recently approved in Europe and the USA, CAR T-cell therapy is offering new hope for patients with rare cancers. But how difficult is it to run this program? Joining me now are some of the top experts in the field to discuss this further. Thank you all very much for joining us. Alvaro, maybe we could start with you. Just to give us a background very quickly, where are we now with CAR T-cell therapy?
Okay, so now we have the evidence that CAR T cells are very effective for treating patients with acute lymphoblastic leukemia and non-Hodgkin lymphoma in a very difficult situation, in relapsed refractory. So this is very clear now, and also that there are many clinical trials trying to discover in which other indications, in which other diseases is also effective this therapy, this CAR therapy.
Let me ask you all, how much is this being used in your hospitals and for whom? Christian, let me start with you.
We started the program in Marseille approximately 3 months ago. We had several clinical research protocols starting, and at the same time we also were qualified for the commercial use of approved products.
And who are the patients that you're treating?
Basically, we are treating adult patients with acute lymphoblastic leukemia because are the patients in which they urgently need this type of treatment.
Sylvia, let me bring you in here. What are the overall challenges for rolling it out further across Europe, would you say?
Obviously, not all the centers can be CAR T centers, and the health systems need to decide what centers are qualified for that. And the health systems also need to deal with the funding. It's still quite an expensive therapy, so there has to be a specific selection of the patients that really can benefit from it.
And what about at a departmental level, Alvaro? Departmental coordination, how important is that?
Well, I think it's a paradigm of a multidisciplinary team working, because you don't need only a physician with expertise in cell therapy, but also an intensive care unit person. You have also the need of a neurologist, also people from the lab, because we are treating with a new drug and a living drug.
Let me ask you all a bit more about the actual treatment itself now. Sylvia, I'll start with you. Is it a complete game changer, would you say?
I think that it will be maybe a game changer for lymphoma is a bit too much, but it will be for specific types of lymphoma or for specific groups that it might not be that they are very numerous, it might not be lots and lots of patients, but there are populations that have a very, very poor prognosis, and this can be what.
Something really important I think we need to stress is that the two approved products got approval based on non-randomized studies and limited number of treated patients. This is not what happens with conventional drugs. So this means we need to carefully evaluate the value of these costly medications in real-life conditions after marketing approval. And this is where EBMT is playing a role with its registry.
When the bone marrow transplant failed, these CARs have proven a high efficacy, but now is the time to demonstrate real efficacy against other standard treatments. To pass from the very advanced disease to intermediate stage or even early stage of the disease, it must be done.
And how much is going on in terms of that coordination at the moment, Christian?
EBMT has worked hard to comply with EMA requirements and recently got a positive opinion to qualify the registry, introducing a new form that allows to collect important information on the nature of the product, whether commercial or investigational, and the follow-up of patients. We have to remind that CAR T cells are gene therapy medicinal products, are genetically modified organisms. We use lentiviral or retroviral vectors to insert the CAR into the lymphocytes, and FDA and EMA have mandated 15 years follow-up of the patients. 15 years is a very long time.
Where's your vision? I'd love to hear from each of you what your vision is for the future, how you see the science growing over the next years.
Well, as I said, I think that it's identify the populations that will really benefit.
I totally agree with Sylvia, and I think that now it should expand the application of the CAR to other diseases. Now it's restricted to lymphoid malignancies. I think that there are other hematological malignancies and also solid tumors.
And anything to add to that, Christian?
I think we are living a very exciting period. If I could use a, let's say, James Bond sentence, I would say the world will never be the same. What we cannot really measure is the amplitude of the change that it will introduce in our daily practice, but for sure that will change the way we practice medicine in hematology and oncology.
Well, on that note, thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure.
Now, with more on CAR T cells, let's visit another top hospital here in Germany. Charité Berlin is providing state-of-the-art care to patients from all over the world.
The Department of Pediatric Oncology and Hematology is the largest center of this kind in Germany, so we treat approximately 150 newly diagnosed cancer patients. We are specialized in the field of acute lymphoblastic leukemia, where we coordinate the international trial for these patients, and we are also focused on transplantations of thalassemia patients.
Our program offers the entire spectrum of stem cell transplantation, including matched donor transplantation from sibling or matched unrelated donor using bone marrow or peripheral blood stem cells, but we also have a strong emphasis on haploidentical stem cell transplantation, mostly from the parents. Our program performs about 50 allogenic transplants per year, including about 25% haploidentical transplants. We have about 10 autologous transplants per year. With that, our program is among the largest programs in Germany and Europe.
We have 10 different working groups focusing on different problems of cancer treatment, of stem cell transplantation, and the major topics are further development of CAR T-cell therapy with creating our own constructs, finding further therapy options for resistant acute leukemias, also within clinical trials, neuroblastoma-specific treatments for relapsed patients, and also some programs addressing the complications of stem cell transplantation, for example, GVHD, graft-versus-host disease, or delayed immune reconstitutions.
Leukemia patients we see around 25 to 30 per year, and among those, let's say 3 will suffer a relapse, but we get a lot of transferals from other centers and also from other countries for treatment because we are specialized centers for this particular patient group. We developed a clinical trial in international setting with the aim to improve the outcome, first by using standard chemotherapy and for most of these children also allogeneic stem cell transplantation.
We deal with acute lymphoblastic leukemia relapses. We are interested how they develop. Why are the leukemic cells could escape from the treatment? In one project we characterize the leukemia cells genetically and from their immune phenotype in order to identify mechanisms for resistance, how the leukemia cells changes during treatment.
One patient with acute lymphoblastic leukemia was transferred to us to treat a false relapse of leukemia. We applied a CD19-directed CAR treatment, and this was again successful and induced very good and until now a sustainable remission.
Hope these times you will be cured and everything okay, and all doctor teams, all the charity teams, their hard job and brilliant mind use its work.
As the center with the highest number of pediatric patients with hemoglobinopathies in Germany, yearly we take care of around 160 to 170 patients between sickle cell disease and severe thalassemia syndromes. One of our main targets is to improve stem cell transplantation as the curative therapy for sickle cell disease and thalassemia.
My principal focus is the use of the haploidentical donor in thalassemia and sickle cell patients. We focus in the research of the best stem cell selection, including a very intensive conditioning regimen before the transplant.
Taking care of patients with hemoglobinopathies means working with families from all over the world. We are a multinational team. I think we speak about 10 different languages in our team to not only understand the language but also the background where the patients are coming from.
Die Ärzte waren alle nett, die Schwestern waren alle auch nett. Mir geht's jetzt sehr gut. Ich bin ja auch fröhlich, dass es mir alles gut geht, dass ich mit anderen Freunden spielen kann und jetzt fühle ich mich wie andere Kinder.
I think what makes the treatment unique in our department in the focus of stem cell transplantation is the combination of high-tech medicine, innovation, the latest therapies that are possible, including CAR T-cell therapies, for example, on the one side, but not forgetting about the supportive care and the comprehensive, holistic, integrating care of the whole family. We have a Ronald McDonald House in 5 minutes walking distance, so there the families get an apartment of their own where they can also live with the whole family, with the siblings. But of course the parents can also do rooming in, so one of the parents is always here with the child. We do have clowns visiting the children once a week, so they do also their therapy. It's not only entertainment. We have an art therapist who works with the children because for children it's very important to express their feelings and sometimes they can't do this verbally. In the field of music therapy, we have different options. One that the patient's experience is very relaxing is a therapy with so-called singing bowls. Of course, we also have classical music therapy with playing different kinds of instruments. This is rounding up this offer. It's amazing what we see with the latest development of CAR T-cell therapy. So we see cures in patients where we would have never expected this 5 years ago. So there is always something coming up that we can offer and where we can contribute with our own research lines, that it's faster developed, and it's wonderful and a lot of fun to see if it works in a child, and this is what we're here for.
As we get warmed up for the opening ceremony, it's time now to talk to the most important people here at the conference. That's you, the delegates. So I've come down to the exhibition hall to find out just what you're most looking forward to about the meeting this year. What are you most looking forward to about the Congress this year?
Learning more about all the exciting data that's coming out and how standard of care is changing amongst the treatment of all these diseases.
I would like to learn new things and see the progress in the field.
Advances in immunotherapy and also those advances like haplo, like GVHD.
The new innovative approach for particularly the invasive fungal infection, the new GVHD treatment.
To learn about different transplantation strategies because I'm new.
To learn about CAR T-cell therapies.
Yes, me too.
All about CAR T-cell. I think that will change the near future in medicine.
It's a good opportunity to get to know other people and other institutions that do these therapies and to learn from them.
I'm a nurse, so I want to know about nursing management for other complications such as VOD, which is today.
How important is EBMT to you?
It is really very important. I mean, since last 3-4 years, I never missed the EBMT.
I'm from Singapore. I'm part of the hematopoietic stem cell transplant team. So it's really important to get annual updates on advances in transplant.
Oh, it's very important not only to inform yourself, to educate yourself, but also to networking with other colleagues.
It's the registry where we are sending information about our data. And it's very important for our patients to collect the data for future development in the field.
EBMT is a really great opportunity to share knowledge and look at what everyone else is doing everywhere else.
It's the biggest congress in our work fields, and so yeah, it's very nice to be here.
Well, finally, it's the moment that we've all been waiting for. It's time for the EBMT 2019 opening ceremony, as this year's annual meeting gets officially underway. So let's head in before the speeches begin.
We are happy to live in this exciting time of development, new drugs in hematology, and also new cellular therapy approach.
So usually the Van Beckham Award is the highest award EBMT can give. This is the award at the annual meeting and is the highest ranked abstract from all submitted abstracts. And this year it was chosen by a study which was performed by the German NDS study group and the German transplant study group, comparing a transplant approach with a non-transplant approach in elderly patients with myelodysplastic syndrome.
The reason why we received this award is because we did a collaborative phase 3 study together, aiming at comparison of azacitidine-based therapy versus stem cell transplantation in higher risk MDS patients.
I'm coordinating a cooperative transplant study group in Germany, and it was important to motivate as many transplanters as possible to participate in such a trial, which was asking a disease-specific question.
Transplantation is one part of the treatment algorithm for patients mainly with higher risk MDS. So the idea was to bring both expertise of both groups together.
It's a day-to-day interaction which referring hematologists treating these patients with MDS have with the transplanters, and this was kind of fostered by these groups interacting with each other.
This is something we would call is practice changing, because until now it was considered those people will not benefit from the transplant because it's a risky procedure and they should more go for non-transplant approach. The selection for the Best Basic Award this year is something which has to do with CAR T cells, which is an exciting new field, but it has to do with another scientific, highly exciting field. This is microbiome. And in the last 2 years, there is increasing knowledge about this microbiome, how this has influenced specific disease and outcome.
My abstract focused on the role of the intestinal microbiota, which is the bacteria within our intestines, and their potential impact to serve as biomarkers for response to chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy. So we found that there was a clear dichotomy in terms of the bacterial abundances in the patients who received CAR T cells and had a complete response or experienced toxicity. And then there was abundance of different bacteria that was found in those patients who had no complete response and no toxicity. We're excited that we have this platform to share it and also have this discourse and dialogue with other scientists to hear their feedback.
I will tell you this evening, in the next 30 minutes before you get your dinner, something about the problem that maybe you haven't not heard a lot about it. This is about loss of biodiversity.
Well, the annual meeting is well underway and we are already starting to get to grips with some of the exciting work that's on display here. Tomorrow we'll be delving deep into some of the key nurses education sessions with Nurses Group Chair John Murray, and we'll be finding out what some of the latest scientific developments mean for paediatric patients. Until tomorrow, there are plenty of ways to watch, so whether you choose to watch on television or on your mobile phone, we'll see you tomorrow.